Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed Dior, and this is Middara on Tabletop Simulator. So, a few things. We didn't get a restore, so I'm going to go ahead and go based off continuing the as if we're continuing. Max HP for Femke is 18, so she goes down to 9. Same thing for DM. These two should be there. Also, I didn't use the Vow token, so I should have gotten a Vow token earlier. And there you go. Definitely that was probably the messiest version of the fight I've ever done. Not just because of like rules and stuff. It was mainly just because the Ezra and Bria were just blasting the shit out of me. There was no real risk of losing. Echo can't really do that much against Rook, and once I got poison on her, she was just going to slowly melt. I was more in danger of Bria and Ezra, unfortunately. Now, unfortunately, I did pop my Poppet, so that's not coming back. Alright, with all that said and done, also, let's go ahead and clear the board again. Alright, let's continue. Pontifex Be Gone, 320. Okay. Even more of the camp was in ruins. A few of the tents were burning, and any semblance of order had been destroyed. Echo lay on her side with blood gushing from her wounded abdomen. She clutched it with both hands, trying to keep a horrific wound from opening more than it already had. "Surrender!" Nightingale shouted, advancing on the fallen girl. "You lost. Don't make us kill you." Instead of agreeing, Echo struggled to stand. Her breathing was ragged, and she gritted her teeth. She drew her dagger, ignoring the fresh wave of blood as she let go of the gash. "You're insane." Remy stared, her eyes flickering to the open injury. "How are you even still alive?" As if in answer to her question, Echo's Esper leaned down. Its massive limbs moved so quickly that they were a blur. It sliced away at damaged flesh before pushing everything back into place and sewing her skin back up with red thread. Echo screamed as the creature worked, but did not resist it. Her legs and arms shook, but somehow she remained standing as the Esper worked. The monster closed Echo's wound, as if it was an expert surgeon. Her cries stopped as the creature finished its grisly work. Sweat rolled down her face, and she glanced down at the stitches and touched the skin with the back of one hand. The Anointed pressed past Nightingale and her friends and closed in around her, their weapons raised with murderous intent. "Stop!" Zafir shouted, his voice almost as agonized as Echo's. "Please, I just got her back." Ezra glanced back at Zafir with frustration on his face. "She's not the woman you knew, Zafir. Your sympathy for this thing is going to get us all killed." Bria and Ezra both closed in around Echo, who seemed as if she could barely hold her daggers. But after what she'd done, Echo probably deserved it, but Nightingale didn't want to watch. "Zafir," Echo pleaded, her voice cracking. The insanity in her voice was gone, replaced by desperate fear. The Esper moved before the two remaining Anointed members could bring their weapons in for a kill. More thick thread lashed out at Echo from above, wrapping tightly around her arms and yanking her backward and out of the way of their attacks. "Echo!" Zafir stumbled toward her, snatching his sword from the ground as he went. The Esper seemed to turn, facing the abandoned streets and the jungle beyond. It glided away, trailing red thread as it went. "Zafir, help!" Echo pleaded. The desperation in her voice was unbearable. "Sharon won't let me go. He won't let me die." The slack on the thread around her wrist abruptly ran out, and Echo was violently jerked backward. The Esper didn't seem concerned with where it moved or what happened to Echo. It dragged her through trees, slamming her into rubble and foliage. Zafir shoved through the stunned Anointed, chasing Echo into the night. Nightingale followed with her friends close behind. They weren't nearly fast enough, and soon the Esper's path was lost in the swamp. Mark the story flag grievous wounds on the adventurous sheet. So we get grievous wound. There you go. Alright, and then we go to Weaken Safer, page 322. Remy made her way through the wreckage to where Zeke had been tied, grinning weakly down at him. "You need any help?" "Yeah." He twisted around, then held his bound hands toward her. Remy dropped down beside him. From the look of it, the Anointed had given him a serious beating. Bruises covered most of his arms, and one of his eyes had swollen shut. Damn, are you okay? Just got my ass handed to me. No big deal. He tried to flash one of his famous smiles, but didn't seem able to make his mouth open all the way. Just a couple cracked ribs, I think. He clutched vainly at his chest, where she could see a particularly large bruise through a rip in his clothes. Remy cut the ropes from around his wrist. Zeke stumbled toward Justice, picking up a dagger someone had dropped in the fighting. Here, he offered, slicing through Justice's bindings with a single cut. How's your neck? Justice might have been in better shape than Zeke, but one wouldn't know it by simply looking at her. There was a long stream of red trickling down her neck and onto her chest. Though the wound didn't look serious, it did look big enough to need stitches. It's fine, she said curtly, snatching the dagger from him. She stalked toward the wreckage of the camp, then strode to her bound book and dropped next to it. She sliced through the rope holding her book closed and pulled it open in a single smooth gesture. She looked for a moment like an angry librarian, hunched over the pages and inspecting them for damage. Only when satisfied did she rise and turn back to Zafir. Only 2 of the other anointed had survived the battle. Zafir had a medical kit open in front of him on the ground. He was on his knees, tending to their wounds. Both looked to be in shock, their eyes wide and staring. Bria, Ezra, I'm sorry, Zafir whispered, but we could still carry on the mission. We could still stop Charon. Find solace that the others won't have died in vain. Justice interrupted him by walking over him and slapping him in the face so hard that he nearly fell backward. You deserve so much more, bastard. Going into Gehenna without me was one thing, but turning on my friends, they saved your life. How did tying us down like animals work out for you? What are you going to do now? Stop sharing with 2 soldiers? She let go of her book, but it stubbornly remained in the air beside her. It stayed open to the page where she left it, glowing faintly with magical energy as though waiting for her word to attack. Zafir didn't strike back. He didn't draw his sword. He dropped down beside Ezra, the wounded man on his table. Zafir silently wrapped a fresh length of bandage around one of his arms. Are you done? Justice fumed. I've not even started. I crossed a continent for you, Zafir. You made me believe you could help me control my powers. You made me believe you were doing the right thing. And what was it for? The stupid Pontifex, an artifact you knew nothing about other than wanting to keep it away from Sharon, whoever the hell he is. I haven't done anything good with my powers. I sure as hell can't control them. You never planned on helping me at all. The only thing you wanted was to use me for revenge or whatever you're doing. You don't give a damn about me. Zafir continued his work, seeming unfazed by the outburst. Yes, almost all of that is true. He got to his feet and offered Ezra a tiny glowing potion vial, which he drained without objection. Zafir stood up straight, meeting Justice's eyes. I'm willing to do anything it takes to protect Middara from Sharon and the Council of Abhorrence. Some things are bigger than we are. Sometimes that means terrible sacrifices. To the ignorant, that can look like evil. But the reason they have the luxury to judge is because of people like us, keeping mad gods trapped instead of darkening the skies above their cities. I know Sharon better than anyone else ever could. I saw the moment of his birth. If he escapes the suspended tomb, Alenia will be ashes in hours. I'm sorry you feel betrayed, but I didn't lie when I said your powers would be used to do good. You just don't understand what that means quite yet. You talk about doing what is necessary. Damocles emerged from the camp, charging towards Zafir. Your own selfish purpose let that murderer escape. Damocles pointed with his weapon into the dark. She didn't just get my mother killed, but most of your soldiers too. Think for a second if you can. Zafir snapped. Echo is working for the council now, slave to Charon. If we free her, think of what she could tell us. She might be the key to destroying them for good. Damocles scoffed. That's a shitty excuse for you to get what you want. Echo gets to live while everyone else gets slaughtered. He moved to close the distance between them, his weapon arm twitching. Nightingale reached out and put one hand on his shoulder. Damocles reluctantly lowered his weapon again, glowering. Speaking of murder, how about me? Nightingale asked, stomping forward until she stood beside the furious Justice. You complain my father isn't willing to help you, then try to murder his damn daughter, and you nearly beat the only son of Lo Zhang to death. Even if we forget that you let Echo go, you think we are just going to pretend that didn't happen? Zafir shrugged, then snapped his medical kit closed. Do whatever you want, he said coolly. If one life is the cost to prevent 100,000 deaths, I will pay it, even if that life is royalty. It's unfortunate that you were infected. I'm sorry the Maluma took your life away, but I am not sorry about trying to kill the parasite. I'll shoulder the guilt if it means the rest of Alenia will live. So the ends just justify the means, Nightingale replied dryly. None of you have any idea how dangerous the Maluma is, Zafir said with some anger. We're talking about the personal esper of a god. It is loyal, eternally patient, and more intelligent than any of us. It is not a matter if it will subvert you, but when. He moved a few steps closer. Damocles and Remy tensed on either side of her, but Zafir didn't make any hostile gestures. He just looked her right in the face. I can see it now, Princess. Its sinuous tendrils wrap tighter and tighter around your soul every day. It turns your dreams to nightmares, twists your desires, and manipulates your perceptions. Eventually you will dream its dreams and think its thoughts. On that day, you will serve the Maluma without even knowing it. He paused and stared. I can see you know what I'm talking about. Nightingale pulled back, looking away from him. Nightingale is still in control, Remy argued, stepping up beside her friend and patting one of her shoulders reassuringly. Admit it, you were wrong about her. I was wrong about the time, but not the outcome, Zafir said. The Maluma will take control, and it will be all the more dangerous because of who she is. With Nightingale under its control, it can manipulate all of Elenia. It is as patient as its master. If the demon needed a century to gradually pick off the royal family before it took control, it could wait. You don't seem to have a problem with parasites when it comes to Echo, Damocles snarled. Zafir glared at him. If you think I won't admit that I don't want her to die because I care for her, you're wrong. I know my judgment is clouded, but there is a reason for it. Echo has secrets that could help us against Sharon. Nightingale has nothing, and the instant she turns will be a nightmare for all of Elenia. What are we supposed to do now, Zafir? Nightingale drew her weapon. There's no way you won't try to kill me again, but you might be right about this Sharon guy, and we can't ignore that either. It looks like you need our help if you want to save Echo, whether she can help us against Sharon or not. You can't be seriously be considering, Damocles began. Rook and Zeke looked equally indignant. Everybody shut up, Nightingale yelled, glaring at them all. Just because he's an asshole doesn't mean we can't listen to what he has to say. And Echo, as much as I hate to admit it, she's a puppet, almost literally. I'm sure you can all understand how I could relate. Maybe we can help her somehow. She put a hand on her hip and faced her friends. You're all here trying to free me from Maluma, right? What Zafir is doing isn't that different. She paused, letting the weight of her statements sink in. None of the others objected, not even Damocles. Nightingale cleared her throat. All right, Zafir, why don't you tell us what you think should happen next? During the attack, Echo managed to steal the piece of the Pontifex I carried. We can't allow Sharon to take control of the symbol artifact. It would doom us all. And you need it if you are to have any hope of extracting the Maluma. I propose we track Echo down and recover the piece she stole. The piece you gave her, you mean? Justice grumbled. Zafir ignored her. Our chances are better if we work together. The Anointed were nearly destroyed, but we know this enemy better than you do. With our help, you might even be able to get all three pieces together before the Maluma claims you. And if we don't? Nightingale met his eyes. Will you try to kill me again? Zafir shrugged. Yes, but so long as you retain control, I promise not to harm you. He extended a hand towards her with no weapon in the other. You have my word. Nightingale turned that over in her head. There was some small part of her that was grateful to know that someone would cut down the Maluma. Being a slave until she died, forced to attack the one she loved, and possibly bringing terrible danger to Elenia were horrifying thoughts. Of course, Zafir had already been wrong about her once. Would she be pleading just as earnestly that she was still herself when he attacked her the next time? Or we could tell him to eat a dick, Zeke suggested. Get the hell out of her kingdom. Zafir paused thoughtfully, looking back to the injured and Anointed on the table. We can't win against Echo alone, not at our present strength. I'd return to the rest of the Anointed. After a failure like this, we would renew our forces in return. For Echo, or for me? Nightingale shifted uncomfortably. They will see the danger in both, as I do, Zafir explained. My own judgment has been clouded. They will not be as merciful. Rook stepped up beside Nightingale, drawing his weapon and hefting it over his shoulder. You already attacked both ruling families, and you've openly stated your intention to kill the second Princess Elenia. If we let you go, you're telling us that Nightingale will have assassins after her? I think King Balthazar will expect me to kill you to protect his daughter. Zafir stepped between Rook and the injured Anointed. He drew his sword in one quick motion, then dropped it on the ground, and spread his arms wide. He turned to face Nightingale. We're in no place to negotiate, Princess, he said flatly. Every charge Rook makes is true. But you must decide if you want our blood on your hands. Do you want to be responsible for killing a man who has already protected Alinea from monsters worse than you can imagine? Ultimately, we have the same goal of protecting the people. When the Council of Abhorrence is victorious at last, and everyone you love is dying around you, you'll know that you stood before the only person in the world with the knowledge to prevent it, and you executed him. Are you seriously listening to this asshole? Damocles stepped up and shoved Zafir, who's tumbled back into the medical supplies. Damocles snarled and turned towards Nightingale. His girlfriend killed my mom. I'm not here to chase some mythical god. Do what you will, princess, but I won't help save Echo. I'm here to bring her to justice. Bring her the justice she deserves. Nightingale nodded and thought, then felt one of Rook's steady hands on her shoulder. You don't have to decide, Rook said. Balthazar made me your sword and shield. I can make the decision, so you don't have to carry the burden. No, Nightingale said sternly. Only Zeke or I have the authority to pass judgment like this. Pick up the sword, the Maluma hissed. Without being able to stop herself, Nightingale obeyed. She walked a few feet away from the away to the body of a fallen anointed, then lifted the shiny metal from beside his corpse. It still glittered with Echo's blood. Zafir will hunt you to Middara's farthest shore. He tells you lies about your safety so your allies will spare him. But as soon as he has another chance, he will kill us. Your friends will try to protect you, and he will kill them too. It is not just your lives. You must save theirs as well. Nightingale felt her arm lift of its own accord, turning the sword in her hand. She felt a sudden wave of energy. The Maluma was right about her friends. Zafir had tried to kill them. Her death wouldn't guarantee their safety from Zafir. So what do we do? Nightingale asked. Her friends watched her with concern, but she ignored them. Killing him isn't in your interest. Letting him join you is inviting betrayal as soon as he believes you lost control of your body. Given the examples of his judgment you have seen demonstrated so far, do you want to rely on him making that observation correctly? Nightingale's sword arm twitched. Let him go. The Maluma repeated. Nightingale couldn't think clearly. Her mind was foggy, but through the haze, she could feel something from the Maluma. Its intense emotion was flowing back to her in a way that reminded her of it seeing her feelings. Nightingale focused, and in that moment she swore she could feel the Maluma's real emotion. Fear. Why? Why are you afraid? I'll kill him, Nightingale whispered. It didn't answer. Well, princess? Zafir's voice cut through the haze, snapping her back to reality. He stood still, blocking Bria and Ezra. He continued to hold his arms out with his chest unprotected and no weapons in his hand. What is your judgment? Alright, so Zeke and Justice are selectable once more. So we got that going for us. Before continuing, players choose the active group. So I actually have to set the active group ahead of time. I am not going to do that right now. I'm just going to go straight to the decision. So there are 3 decisions. You can either kill Zafir, he's already proven he's dangerous. Let Zafir help, his expertise could be helpful. Or you let Zafir go. You won't kill him, but you can't trust him either. Killing him is... Obviously, he's not going to let us kill him, so if we do fight him, we'll end up fighting him and probably his buddies, and there's probably a chance that Justice is not going to be happy about that either. Letting him go and do his zealot craziness all over the place, I don't think is the best answer either. And usually the option I pick is I go ahead and just take him with us. Not necessarily for him to be helpful, but more just to keep an eye on him. He's already proven that despite his whole zealot, drive to stop Sharon, unfortunately he is completely clouded by Echo being alive in the first place. So I don't really believe he's going to be able to do his duty, whatever his duty is in the first place. So it's probably going to fall onto me anyway, or at least Nightingale and the others. So we're going to let Zafir help. His expertise could be useful. So we're going to go ahead and do Reluctant Partnership 346. We're going to, as you can see, there's an encounter here. There's also a game over state. So it was 43 or 46, I think it was. Yeah, it's all the way up here. Reluctant partnership. Allowing this man to travel with us will put us in constant danger. It's only a matter of time before he kills us both. Nightingale ignored the Maluma's promptings, just as she always ignored the monster's attempts to manipulate her. She saw no reason to argue with it when it wasn't going to be honest about its motivations. Nightingale dropped the sword where she stood, stalked up to Zafir, and yanked him down so his face was only inches away from hers. "All right, listen up," she growled. "I don't know what kind of stick you've got rammed up your ass, but let's get a few things straight." Zafir didn't move. "If the Maluma works for Sharon, then Sharon's my enemy too." Nightingale tightened her grip. "We know what tools we need to get the Maluma out of my head, and nobody knows more about fighting Sharon and his agents than you. We're on the same side, and you're going to help me. I'm not letting this thing steal my body." "You can't do this," Damocles shouted, pointing angrily at Zafir with his weapon. "This bastard tried to kill you. He let my mother's killer just walk away. If you let him live, there's no telling when he might stab you in the back." Nightingale spun and glared at Damocles. "It's my decision. Put that thing down." She kept glaring until he obeyed. "For now, we need his help. He can't give us that help if he's dead." "We don't need anything from him." Damocles raised his weapon again, stalking towards Zafir. "We can do this without him." Zeke moved to stop Damocles by pushing on his shoulder. "Chill out for a second. We get that you're upset, but this isn't the guy who killed your mom. Don't take out what Hendricks did on him." Damocles violently shoved Zeke back. Zeke tumbled into a huge patch of mud nearby, landing with a squelch. "It's his fault Echo got away." Damocles roared with rage. "He tried to kill Nightingale. He beat the shit out of you in justice. He got his men killed. How many crimes does he have to commit before we were pushed too far?" "Back off, Damocles," Zeke shouted, sitting up. He was shaky but determined. "We follow Nightingale's orders here. She's the one in danger." "I follow my own orders, and he needs to pay." Damocles raised his dagger, twisted it about in both hands, and marched towards Zafir. Just a step between Zafir and Damocles. Behind her, the tome of Theodosia was already open, and a faint arcane diagram glowed with inner light. "Stop." Damocles froze, staring at her. "This man can't be trusted. He admits that if we let him go, he'll send assassins after us. What else am I supposed to do?" "We can keep him close," Justice countered. "Give him the chance to make good on his word. He has the same enemies we do, for all we know. Zafir might be the only one who could help save Nightingale. He might be the only one who could stop Sharon. He didn't kill your mother. Killing him now won't bring her back. Even if you want to hate him for letting Echo go, he only learned she was still alive right here." Damocles hesitated another moment, letting the dagger droop in his grip. "I'm watching you, asshole. If you even look at me wrong, and I'll cut you from ear to ear." He turned and stalked back to where he had pushed Zeke down, offering his arm to help him up. "Hey, sorry about that. You all right?" Zeke groaned, taking it off her hand. "I'm great," he muttered. "Just great. You owe me a pack of cigarettes, by the way." He pointed into the mud where a tiny white box had been swallowed. Nightingale ignored them. Following Zafir as he made his way forward to collect his sword, he brushed the dirt from the blade with 2 fingers, then snapped it into its sheath. "If we're going to be traveling together, you should get to know the Anointed. The 3 of us left anyway." He walked back to the low table where the survivors gathered. "This is Ezra," he said, gesturing first to the young man. "I thought I saw some of you playing cards with him earlier." Zafir shrugged. "In any case, the one beside him is Berea." At Zafir's prompting, they both rose to their feet, nodded, and shook her hand with awkward formality. "We're going," Zafir said gently. "Get what you need. We won't be coming back." Only when they were gone did Zafir continue. "I apologize for my reaction earlier, Princess. I was wrong about you. You aren't a monster yet. If you were the Maluma's slave, you never would have spared me. Attacking you was premature." "You're damn right," Nightingale spat. "I haven't forgotten about that. One day the Arson family will collect on the debt you owe." "One day," Zafir continued, "I will be right, and the Maluma will take you. When that day comes, I'll be there with my sword at your throat." "We'll get this damn thing out of me long before that happens," Nightingale said stubbornly. Zafir smiled slightly. "I hope you're right, Princess. Elenia would be poor without royalty who cares about the consequences of her actions." Alright, so we get Zafir. Zafir joins the party. Parties must immediately set up Zafir by going through the following steps. Get UM44. My voice is kind of failing with me. There's a lot of dialogue to go through. Alright, so we get Zafir. We get his fancy sword. His initiative card is missing. Yeah, it's missing. Give me a second. Alright, got it. Just pulled it out of the hidden deck. Okay. To access Zafir Al-Kashif Adventurer card. Story item and companion card. Zafir gains the Blade of Babylon story item. The Ezra and Bria story companions may be equipped to any adventurer. Zafir joins the party with a random rare core. There you go. So this is a Charm of Ash. This is a deflection core. So this is the one for that gives you lets you flip to automatically pass a conviction check. Rare core, relic, rare core, relic, or armor. So I actually have to pick. So let me take that back. Sorry, I didn't read that correctly. So I can either get a rare relic or armor. I'm going to go armor. So I apologize. I should have read that more thoroughly. Relics, there's a chance to get some pretty good stuff, but there's also things that are not as useful, like arrows that I don't want. So armor is probably the best chance of getting something that's least useful. Honestly, the core is not that bad either, but I want armor. And it looks like we got the plate mail. Okay. So at any time, you can spend 1 SP to add hulking to this armor until end of turn, so you essentially can't be pushed or pulled. When you are the target of an attack, even if you are dealt damage, you may still counter, and then of course you can exhaust to reduce physical damage by 4. It's heavy, of course, because it's plate. Okay. So, not the best armor, but it's something. I'm not a big fan of plate armor, unfortunately. All right, so yeah, we got that. Next, we also get 50 gold, which puts us at 753. Then Zafir gains experience equal to the total experience you've gained so far, which of course would be 41 at this point. Let me confirm that. 3, 7, 16, 21, 27, 32, 39, and then 2 experience here is 41. Yep, 41. Zafir however you pronounce his name, Kashif. Okay, so he's got 41 experience. I honestly don't really intend on using him. Like I mentioned, I really just want to keep an eye on him. I have no interest of actually using him in combat. But we'll go ahead and talk about his stuff. His Blade of Babylon is a Zambato. Zafir only. It's heavy, of course, because it's a Zambato. Blue and green within power. It's two-handed, gives +1 armor, just like all Zambatos. Every shield is +2 physical damage, and every burst is +3 physical damage. When determining the damage of an attack, you, of course, exhaust. But then you choose one of the following. You can either do what a Zambato usually does, which is roll an extra die of damage. You can make it so you do an extra ×2 physical damage based off the difference hit. Or you can change the entire damage type to magic, which is kind of neat. And that is it for that. We also get these companions. We do have companion slots, as you probably have known. Bria essentially will give you +1 to a conviction or a force check. And then Ezra is a flip to do additional purple. So I'm going to give Ezra to Nightingale. As you can see, it gets very, very crowded on these cards. And of course, Bria is going to go hang out with Rook. once I have the opportunity to equip, of course. At this point, I also choose the active group, and we also get Reluctant Partnership on the adventure sheet. So we'll go ahead and get Reluctant Partnership. All right. All right, so Zafir, obviously, he's a two-handed guy. I'm going to go ahead and go Hammer Helm. We have multiple Hammer Helms. Yes, we do. Okay, so yeah, Hammer Helm. Gygus Grip, why not? Okay. Bring the Wrath. Two-handed weapon effects. Making Morbid Envy. Yeah, I'll give him Dead End. So, like I said, there's a future build I want to do, but it involves two one-handed weapons. And the person that's probably going to end up doing it is a character that actually has a really good two-handed weapon, but I'm probably not. I'm just going to have to opt to not use that weapon. So I think Zafir is going to be the two-handed guy. So I think that is going to be the plan. So yeah, we'll go ahead and go Dead End for him. And then give him. I'm going to give him Will to Live. So that there is 3, 8, 15, 24 right there. So that brings him down to 17 left. Like so. Alright, so that's 17 left. Is there anything else I could mess around with? I'm going to go ahead and give him Mend. I'm going to give him some port stuff just in case I have to use him at some point. I don't plan on using him, but just in case. Wait, is someone else using Mage Armor? Who else is using Mage Armor? Oh, you have Magic Armor. Ah, I see. Alright, so that's going to be another 4, 9. So that's another 9 there. So that brings him down to 8. And I'm going to do Paradigm Assault. Get that going. So like I said, I'm not really giving him a great build. I'm just giving him a build if I ever have to use him. But I don't plan on using him, so that's going to be that. I'm just going to give him a random core I have laying around. Like this one. Now you can have the you can have the aligning machine, why not? Alright, now I'll at least give him something. Is there any... There's accessories I can give him. I am not going to give him an accessory, though. Alright, I'll take care of all of that. Let's go ahead and continue reading. Does the party have the story flag Last of a Coterie? The answer is no. No, because there are actually 2 of those nymphs that are still alive. So go to no, which is 335. Oh, actually, I think at this point I have to set the actor group, so let me do that. Okay, so I swapped out Damocles for Zeke. I'm not bringing back Justice. Actually, is there anything... Well, I can't switch equipment or anything, so what she has is what she has. Alright, I didn't, since we haven't refreshed yet, I did note that Damocles has 11 damage, and he still has his Vow tokens, just in case, since we don't know what's coming. Let's go ahead and continue to a Sign of Echo, 335. We'll do... Should be able to do it this way. There we go. 335. Nightingale found Zafir once again once she had finished packing and cleared her throat to get his attention. He was going between the tents, collecting small objects from each one and reverently tucking each into his pack. There didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to what he grabbed. As Zafir turned around, Nightingale found he grabbed a little sketch pad from the most recent tents, along with a tiny wooden statue of an earth fox. What is it, Princess? Zafir put both items in his pack, not meeting her eyes. What are you doing? Nightingale asked. Remembering the dead, he said. Many of the anointed were my friends, and all the rest were known to someone in the order. I'll bring some small token back from each one, so that the ones they love can remember them. Nightingale shifted uneasily on her feet. She should have guessed that someone like Zafir wouldn't have been looking for loot. Nothing she had seen when he opened his pack had looked even remotely like valuables. That's sweet, he shrugged. Ageless life on Middara isn't always a blessing. When we lose the ones we love, we can be without them for much longer than a single lifetime. He shook his head. If you're not careful, it's easy to forget that they ever existed at all. He pulled the straps across, sealing the pack closed. Are you ready to go? Not quite. The Esper controlling Echo. Did you recognize it? His expression darkened. I did not. Whatever that thing is, it isn't from any realm I'm familiar with. I'm certain Sharon is responsible for it one way or the other. A voice spoke up. I can tell you what it is. Or what it was. The voice didn't come from her mind, as it usually did. The Maluma suddenly floated beside her, but still didn't seem visible to anyone but her. Nightingale nearly fell over in shock as she stared at its shifting form. Of course, she'd seen it often enough that she no longer felt existential dread, an overwhelming nausea at its impossible contortions and ever-changing configuration of organs. I know the Esper who nearly defeated you. I could tell you everything you need to know to track it down, the Maluma continued. Zafir tensed and narrowed his eyes. What's wrong? Nightingale stepped back and out of reach in case Zafir decided to attack. Just because they were working together didn't mean she had any illusions about his loyalty. The less he knew about the influence the Maluma had over her, the better. Nothing, she muttered. The Maluma is trying to talk to me. If I ignore it, it stops. She turned and walked to where her friends were gathering with their supplies, ready to leave. When she was out of earshot of Zafir, she whispered to the Maluma. How do we check her? The Maluma floated along through the air, its amorphous shape shifting. It looked like an amoeba dragging itself through the air beside her with a gigantic toothed pseudopod. Give me your body, it said, and I will explain everything. Eat shit and die. Nightingale spat. The creature only laughed, slinking away from her. It seemed to move through the wreckage of the camp, inspecting the damage. It passed harmlessly through physical objects, making no mark on the world. The Nightingale glared at it. Just leave already. The laughter only got louder. I'm not going away, Nightingale. I'm always with you, whether you can see me or not. Rook walked up beside her, gently resting a hand on her shoulder. Is everything all right, Nightingale? You look like... Like I'm seeing things? I am. You know who. It thinks I'm stupid enough to give it control to help find Echo. Rook looked even more concerned. He glanced in the general direction Nightingale was looking, though she knew he couldn't see the Maluma. Rook's eyes lingered too long in the wrong places. That sounds awful. I'm sure you can't just ignore it. Maluma drifted over to Zafir, opening a gigantic mouth and swallowing him whole. For a second, Zafir vanished from view until he came walking out the other side. Nightingale shivered. Yeah, it's pretty unnerving. At least it doesn't usually stick around for that long. Excuse me, Nightingale. Damocles spoke from a few feet away, breaking her concentration. He pointed at the patch of ground not far from where it was standing. It looks like that's where Echo was dragged away from camp. She put up a fight against that creature, and the tracks are deep enough for us to follow. Perfect. Nightingale smiled smugly at the Maluma's ghostly form. She wouldn't be giving up any of her freedom. Everybody, we've got a lead. Let's get going before this trail goes cold. Do we have experienced guide? No. Trail of Echo is 337. Rook and Damocles led the way along the trail that Echo had left through the wilderness. Between the two of them, they kept the group on course. The sun rose as they hiked, though only sparse rays found their way through the thick canopy of looming trees. The oppressive heat and humidity soaked them to the skin and drew a cloud of biting insects behind them. However unpleasant their trip was, it looked as though Echo had had a far worse experience. Her trail had not been chosen carefully, cutting straight across water logs and rocks and through thickets of thorny plants. Rook found occasional bloodstains and bits of ripped cloth snagged on sharp branches, indicating injuries sustained from her hasty departure. The Esper controlling Echo hadn't seemed concerned with her comfort. Then again, Rook considered the possibility that Echo might have intentionally struggled violently in order to leave a trail so that she could be found. The trail continued for several miles, and eventually morning turned to afternoon, and they found their way to a patch of thick swamp. On the other side of the murky water, Rook could make out an opening in the ground, and no trail on the other side. He held his hand up, stopping the group. "Hey guys," he said, pointing. "I think there's a cave over there. There's no more trail. I think she's waiting for us." Damocles stood at the edge where the ground was wet. "Let's get going." Let's get going then. I'm itching to fight." Remy scratched at her bare legs. "I'm itching to not be in this swamp." Should have worn pants," Rook chastised. "Yeah?" Remy asked sarcastically. "And you should have worn a shirt." "Restore adventurers, thank you." So we do get to restore. So that means this unflips. Also, I can now freely trade as if I'm adjacent. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and swap out the poppet. For now, this does mean I get a full heal. This also does mean I don't have my summons, so they're not even on the field, but they are healed when I do summon them, which is also good. And then, of course, Remy here is worse for wear at the moment. Alright, so that should be everything. Oh, also I can freely trade, so let's do some free trades, shall we? We're going to do that. You can do something like that, I guess. Yeah, that works. Alright, and then Murky Lake, which is 338, which I believe is an encounter. So I'll go ahead and read the encounter, but we're not gonna do it this session. My voice is failing me at this point. But there was a lot to go over, so it's no surprise. We got a new party member that's far from trustworthy. And the other thing that also is just kind of amusing if you take Zafir is it just adds so much tension with Damocles. There's just so much conflict. They do not get along for obvious reasons. Now, I don't know if I made this mistake with the first time we fought a corpse collector, but tentacles do actually drag you. I didn't know this for a while until I actually read the token. So that's just something to be aware of in the future. As you can see, this map is a bit crowded. I'm just checking to make sure everything is actually here, because it has made mistakes in the past. Good. Yep, the roots are in place like they should be. Okay. Yeah, looks like it's all correct. Okay. Amongst the swampy plants, you see some viscera, a physical piece of Echo that was cut from her body in the previous scuffle. You consider that this means that you must be on the right track. The girl must have been physically sewn back together by her Esper as they retreated, healing any damage that was dealt. To the north, you see a cave entrance. Due to the pattern of the blood, it's likely she's inside. However, between you and the cave entrance, you see a mass of squirming tentacles moving through the plants of the swamp. Somewhere in the muck, there must be a corpse collector. All right, and then we'll go ahead and go over the rules. Strange loot. Boxes from what must have been a caravan are wrapped tightly by the roots. Whenever a root or grotesque effigy is killed, place a random loot token on a space it occupied. And then the Merkhound Nest. Corpse collectors will summon Merkhounds. And then aftermath of a beating, only set up the objective tokens in this encounter if we have the flag Grievous Wounds, which we do. All the objectives are triggered by being adjacent to it. And then there's, of course, loot tokens. And then for the win conditions, there's definitely some variety here, but based off flags you get. But essentially the goal is to get to the blue exit, which is just right up there. And as for where we're spawning in the bottom here. Nothing too crazy. How do I want to do this? So one thing that's kind of hard to see is all the red squares that are blocking line of sight. Does this have line of sight of the... Yes, it does. Okay. That works. And then put Zeke at the back. We'll put Remy here. All right. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and call it here. There was a lot to go over here. Yeah, so I am the Depressed Viewer. This was Middara on Tabletop Simulator. As always, I apologize for all the mistakes. I know that last encounter was particularly dicey. Thankfully, that's probably the most complicated one out of the bunch. Also, these HP's wrong. But, like I said, future combats shouldn't be as bad. That was any battle where there's a three-way combat conflict, it's always going to be a mess. So, anyway, see you guys next time.